Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome back to Dawgs TV. I'm your host, Joe McFarland. We're back with the second installment of our new series entitled The Coach's Roundtable, a chance to catch up with Dawgs coaching staff. Head coach Mitch Schmidt is here, as well as assistant coaches Dave Robb, Andy Peterson, and Joe Sergent. They're here for a Zoom chat to talk all things baseball. In episode 1, we talked about the 2019 Western Canadian Baseball League Championship run that they were a part of, and we're back for more. So let's dive right back into it and welcome the guys back.
So take us into the coach's room post 2019 championship, and you know that you have this bar that you've now set. And like I said, you have the targets on your back, but then it's kind of pandemonium. It's a bit of chaos because now you've got COVID and sort of everything's sort of hanging in the balance. What's it like trying to navigate through these unseen waters?
DR, I'll let you jump on this one first because you're experiencing more of it, more change because of where you're at than I am, and obviously Andy and Joe are.
You mean the COVID, being in a COVID situation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I got to talk like this right away. That's the first. That's the first thing, and I guess that the unknowns and the changes that we've been making, and you know, at Mesa we can't coach our players right now. We have to go through an assistant coach, or not an assistant coach. Actually, he's a former player, and he does what we need to do, or he teaches the amount that we can. And I guess with you know, in terms of our season, the players, I think one thing is that we're probably going to be oversubscribed, you know, in terms of players wanting to play, because it's been almost a year since they've actually been on the field to play a game, at least that counts. And so we're probably going to get 50 or 75 or 100 kids that are pretty quality kids that are going to want to, you know, to come, and they've all heard of Okotoks. And so that's going to kind of be the hard part, is to who can, who can't. Fortunately, I don't do it as much as the other three do, but you know, Mitch has a real good pipeline, and he has a real good network of players, and so he can find out very quickly. Joe has his network, and he finds out, and he's got his network, and so you know, they work off of that, and so I think, you know, when the time comes, we'll get the players that we need to, and we would have. I mean, we had a lot better roster in 2020 than we had in 2019. We just didn't play it. And a lot of those guys are interested in coming back. And so, you know, that part of it's not going to be as hard as maybe some of the, I guess, the rules, the conditions that people are going to lay out. And hopefully it's not going to be the fans that are affected by it, that, you know, that we're not going to be 1,000 people because everybody's got to sit 6 feet apart. Hopefully it's, you know, there's I guess a way in which we can have the fan base, because I mean, that it'd be hard for people to lose out on that for sure. So, you know, I don't know what to anticipate, because everybody else was hit with it at the same time, and we all kind of, you know, the world stopped for a while and nobody knew what to do, and now things are changing and rules are getting into effect, and so we'll see.
We were talking a little bit off air about this, and it's the challenges around even coaching. And I wanted to get the input from Joe and Andy and Mitch as well on this. Is what's it been like as you've been able to kind of see some college ball get back into play over the fall here, and knowing that there's a whole bunch of new rules and things that have never been in place before, that all of a sudden you kind of have to try to navigate around?
Go ahead, Andy.
No, yeah, it's been weird. You know, it's been different. None of us are used to. I think the first couple of weeks was all, you know, the small group stuff and all the Zoom meetings constantly over the summer with these guys and with school, and it's definitely different. We're in full team practice now out here in Oregon, so everything is back to normal-ish. Would be the best way to put it. We started doing some scrimmages and all that, and you know, it's constantly yell at the guys about their masks and stop touching each other and all that, you know, but it looks like we're getting through it so far. Hopefully everybody's staying healthy. We can have our season. You know, can't plan, can't look too far in the future. It's kind of a one day at a time thing. So we'll kind of see where we go from there.
And I'm going to add on to Andy's there. You know, obviously we're practicing. We've actually played 4 games. So, but I can tell you this, we have not had our full roster at practice or at a game yet, because we've got rules and regulations set forth that the guys are having to check in. We have basically an app that they have to do a screening on every single morning by 7:30 in the morning. If they don't get it done by 7:30, they can't take part that day. And if they have any of the indicators, they can't go to class, they can't take part, and they got to take, the COVID test. And if they test positive, oh, here you go. We actually had an incident where we went to go play Midland University, and one of the guys in our van, we had 10 people in a van, his girlfriend that he lives with tested positive. Well, so because he was a first contact and he actually had to go into quarantine right away, well, everybody in that van had to go into quarantine until we found out whether this kid was positive or negative. And luckily he came out negative. So, the other 9 people were out, but because he lives with her and he's in contact, he had to go into quarantine for 14 days. So, and obviously the scope of college baseball, guys live with each other, there's 3, 4, 5, even 6 roommates sometimes. So, and then they go to the weight room and, and they get hooked up with the softball team lifted in front of us. Well, next thing you know, 4 of the softball players test positive. So anybody that came in the weight room in that section after they came in has to go into quarantine. We literally have our women's volleyball team the entire team has gone into quarantine 3 times for 14 days apiece, every single time. And at this point, only one of their players and one of their coaches has not tested positive for COVID.
Wow.
So it's the rules and regulations. And, now that the NCAA and NJCAA, they came out with, here you go, because of COVID, and these kids are going to miss games. They're going to miss opportunities. Every single athlete has a free year of eligibility. So,
yeah,
DR's got a couple legit arms that are sophomores for him this year at Mesa. If they want, they're going to be able to come back to Mesa, and
yeah,
we got one of DR's top arms at our place. And because he got the year back and he's only a sophomore now at our place, now that this year is back up, he's going to play this whole year for us, and he's going to be a sophomore again next year. He's literally going to be able to play for 5 years, possibly 6, of college baseball. And that's what what COVID's done. It's honestly, we could see some of these guys that are coming up to play for us in Okotoks. We could see them coming up for 4 or 5 years rather than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Does it, and Dave, you kind of alluded to it, is all of a sudden you now have this groundswell of players that want to come up and play, and they obviously missed out on a summer of being able to play, and so they want to get their reps in, they want to get their pitches in. It's a good thing, but also a bad thing, I assume. If Mitch, from your perspective, is this a good thing or a bad thing that you're going to be able to have kind of the pick of the litter almost?
It's going to be good, but it's also going to be bad because now NCAA, they haven't made their decision whether they're going to push their season back. Like right now, one of the talks is that they're not going to have a start date until March 15th, all across the board. And they're talking about regionals and super regionals not being until the first week of July, and the World Series being the 3rd week of July. Well, if the College World Series is the 3rd week of July, we got some players that we're hoping are going to be there, and we got some pretty good players from some schools that are probably going to be in the D1 World Series that we're not going to have until August.
Not exactly the most timely thing in the world. Does that put a bit of an onus maybe on someone like a Joe, for example, who knows what's going on with Dawgs Academy, for example, and might have the inside scoop on maybe some of the hot arms that are throwing there, for example, for a 2021 season, should it happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Just the unknown of like the college sport, and who knows, like, even the border being closed, right? What's going to happen when the border opens, like, right? do we get them in June, but then they got to immediately go in isolation? And then, do they have a host family that really wants them, an American that has to now isolate? So it's going to be tough on that end. But the good thing is we at least have the academy to kind of fall back on, like you're saying, right? There's some really good arms up there. And I think that's the one good thing we had out of our 2019 team was we had a ton of Canadians out of that group that we were able to find, and just us talking to each other and scouring kind of Canada and stuff like that to be able to get through all those kind of little loopholes that Mitch is talking to you about, the NCAA and the junior colleges and all that stuff. What the unknown is if it's going to push back, and our kind of roster deadlines are always July 15th. What do we do? Right? Mm-hmm. So you have our starting center fielder who's in a Division I World Series, but he can't get here till June 8th or July 18th. What do we do, right? So I think the whole academy and the Canadians that we have up here and we've had in the past, I think we have an advantage, and it is really good, and it's really promising to see, especially with a lot of those guys, like you said, because when with that free year, right, a lot of the academy kids that were grade 12s stayed back and mm-hmm. took that kind of that extra year. So we have probably in the academy 12 to 15 guys that, if we absolutely have to, we can run them onto the roster if needed. So it's a good thing for us.
That'll do it for this edition of the Road Table. We'll be back soon with the third and final installment, so keep it locked on the Dawgs social media accounts for updates on that, or for more information, you can head on over to dogsbaseball.ca. We'll see you next time here on Dawgs TV.